Hello, my name is Bradley Galarza, and today I'm going to be talking about teaching strategies and student engagement. Firstly, I'm Bradley Galarza. I am a student at KCC for the Fast Path program, and I intend on majoring and graduating with a history education degree, specifically for secondary teaching, as in high school teaching. And the field that I'm researching is obviously history teaching, history education. And the journal that I'm publishing for, or writing for, in a sense, is Teacher Magazine. It's I mean the title says it all. It's a teacher magazine. Teachers sort of go there and report on the latest teaching news in the teaching world per se. So for this assignment, I studied a couple of things from different teaching sources, academic journals, magazines, and what I found was an academic journal and a magazine, and I include them both here. The first one being the Academic Journal by Janine Graham, a history professor at the University of New Zealand, and her academic journal was titled Individual Effort, Collective Outcome, a case study of group teaching strategies in history. And the main strategies that she touched up upon that helped with student engagement and overall student happiness was firstly guided reading as a way to retain attention and also knowledge within the guided reading, as it helped them look for specific parts that were important to the overall message of the reading. And then a book proposal, which sounds simple, but it's just the students get to pick their own book to read and then apply to a lesson that she would be teaching, which would help with reading comprehension and just simply giving them the freedom to pick their own book and connect it with what they're learning. And the last one being a class bibliography, and this is also pretty simple. They got a bibliography, and it helps collect the different resources that they read and compile them into a bibliography. And then the second one I read was Dominique Russell from Teaching Magazine, and she wrote about student perspectives on teachers as effective listeners. Now, what this was, it's in a sense similar to the first one, but it's not in the first person like the other one was. This is more so of a research rather than a case study. And what she found was with students in the 8th grade, gifted students specifically, there was a direct correlation to student engagement, but also teacher engagement as well. And whenever the teacher was engaged in what they had to say as students, they would listen a lot more, and overall, they felt more valued as students. And the converse thing happened as well, where when the teacher just didn't listen, kind of brushed off students, the exact opposite happened. They started acting up. And the writing conventions with both these, like I mentioned before, Janine Graham, um, she, it was from her perspective, her research. So it was all in the first person. And Dominique Russell, she did the research, but it wasn't her research. So she obviously had to cite the research and say, for example, researchers found, and then what the researchers found. And with my WID paper, I sort of went with the first route, the first person route, because I felt it was more personal. So my initial plan for this assignment was to learn about teaching and what it takes to teach, and also to play into the discourse of the assignment to provide a perspective on a learner learning how to teach, in a sense, because a lot of the discourse revolves around teachers just sort of giving these tips with no real feedback on how helpful it could be, and that's what I was trying to provide. And with the research, I also learned that they were very interconnected with because initially I was just looking for different teaching strategies, but it quickly became about student engagement as it went along. So really, I just learned through the research that that's really the key. You just have to engage the students, and that's what I found in the annotated bibliography as well. That all of them sort of shared a similar premise on student engagement. So my WID paper came around, and the thesis for the whole paper was how do teachers find ways to maintain student engagement and how successful are they? And I think that second part is very important because they did provide these engagement strategies, but are they efficient and are they like a fail-safe 100% they'll work all the time? Or are there issues that they need to adapt to with that as well? And the main points that I covered with that to sort of answer that question was through Janine Graham's different teaching strategies that she tried out, because she tried out 3 of them as the years went by, and a few difficulties came through, like with the book proposal specifically. The rise of the internet sort of made things very difficult in a learning aspect because you can just look up book summaries and you essentially have the answers, and it takes away from what she was trying to do in a sense with just simply learning these different things. And overall, she was pretty successful because the guided reading engaged students with the reading more than it had before. The book proposal before the internet, it was mostly, a fail-safe 100%. It would work. The internet did make it a little complicated though. And that class bibliography as well, it worked pretty well. And Dominique Russell's article was about student engagement and how teacher engagement also plays into that. And it went through the different difficulties of teaching and maintaining that student engagement. And the main gist of it was just simply listening to students whenever they, say, have a question or want to make a comment. Because what Dominique commented on is teachers might have a sort of need to want to dive into, the nitty-gritty, the specific topics, but not engaging with the class and what they want to say could be sort of the downfall of that sort of teaching method. So that's overall what I learned in researching and doing this WID paper. Overall, the conclusion that I came up with was sometimes these strategies will not always work, because I know in my experiences personally, sometimes a book proposal might not engage me as much, or a class bibliography, or even guided reading, which sort of connected with me the most, I guess, in that the guided reading, I could just simply look for an answer, and I would sort of learn more that way. But overall, if they're applied well, like Janine or Dominique, they can go pretty well. And there are also subtleties in teaching that I never knew before, in that with these guided readings and these book proposals, I never really thought that they would be this engaging, but looking at it through a different lens, I can understand how it would be pretty engaging, per se. And another key to student engagement is teaching, or teacher engagement as well, because, it goes without saying, but if the teacher is just ignoring the student, then obviously the student's going to ignore the teacher as well. But in my future teaching experiences, and sort of jumping into this, toes first, it really helps to know these nuances and these little subtleties that come with it.